Hey everyone, Chris Gildart here. Koei and Tecmo have put out some amazing franchises in their time. Dynasty Warriors was the one that got me and many of us into following the company, but do you guys know some of their lesser known titles? Like, you might know Dead or Alive, Ninja Gaiden, and possibly Monster Rancher, but who has heard of Rygar? Rygar started its life as an action platformer in the arcades in 1986. It's actually pretty fun, and you can play it now on PSN or grab the Tecmo Classic Arcade Collection on the original Xbox. They then released a version on the NES in 1987, and that was more of an action-adventure game. Then, in 2002, we got a new 3D action-adventure game on the PS2. This is the one I have the most experience with because my NES doesn't fully work properly. But we're not talking about the PS2 version today, because in 2009, we got a Wii game, which is just a port of the PS2 version with a different character model. Okay? I guess that's alright. I mean, it should still be an alright game, right? I may have played this game before, but the Wii version might offer something new to me. Who knows? It's been a while since I played the PS2 version as well, so we're going into this with a breath of fresh air. So, why don't we get started with the first Pro! Rygar was the main reason I wanted this year's theme to be Legacy, and the first thing I noticed right away after starting up this game was that I recognized some of the monsters and items I was picking up from the arcade game. I thought it was really cool to see those pill bug-like enemies at the beginning of the game, similar to some of the first enemies you run into in said arcade title. They even included the large urns or whatever they are that you turn around in order to open sealed passages. These were at the end of every stage in the arcade title. Not only that, the disc armor you use throughout the game really feels like it harkens back to the arcade classic with the way it controls. Overall, it feels like this game just takes its source material and expands on it. This game also takes a lot of cues from the NES release in that it has a lot of progressions similar to the Legend of Zelda games. As you continue through the game, you'll earn new disc armors with different attack styles, new special moves, and abilities that will help you move on to the next area of the game. Overall, the legacy of Rygar is incredibly present in this title. Con! Yeah, and you know what's not present? Controls. I mean, yeah, you press buttons and you get an action. Everything kind of works, but not the way that it should. Similar to Dynasty Warriors 2 through 4, when you start an attack, you are locked in a direction. You're not able to move around and attack the multitudes of enemies that you may have to deal with. And when you start getting new disc armors and movesets, you'll feel like each one has its own issues you have to work around. I also have to mention the camera. It's very similar to games like Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, and God of War, where the camera is locked when you enter certain rooms and areas on the map. You have no control over the camera. This means you may find yourself stopping while you are running, or just running in the wrong direction if the camera changes and your thumbs slip. If you're holding the same direction you were when you entered the new camera angle, you'll just continue moving forward, but the moment you change your direction in any way, you'll start moving that way in relation to the camera. It's so frustrating. I had some trouble with one of the bosses because the camera couldn't decide if it wanted to show me where the boss was or go back to the default position of the room. I fought with these controls so frequently it broke my excitement to play Rygar to begin with. I still pushed on because I remember enjoying the PS2 game a lot. But was it all rose-tinted glasses? I don't even know anymore. It might have been due to the type of Wii controller you use for this game. You specifically use the Wiimote and Nunchuck. There is no other way to play it. I think this game would have benefited from using the classic controller, which would have replicated the PS2 controls to a T. It's just a poor decision on Tecmo's part to make you only use the Wiimote and Nunchuck. Pro! Now, even though the controls limit you, you can get used to them and start feeling a sense of satisfaction from letting loose on a bunch of enemies. One of the things they did right was giving Rygar 3 different disc armors that he can use, each with varying power and movesets. The first one you get is a medium range and attacks right in front of him. It moves at a moderate speed and deals moderate damage. The next disc armor that you'll get is a heavier one, which has a much wider range and a lower number of attacks to its combo set. It also moves incredibly slow but deals high damage. This is really useful when you're in a room full of enemies that don't move too quickly and can get a bunch of attacks in one sweep. The last one is the lighter weight disc armor. This one has the highest combo set with the weakest range and damage of all 3. It only really attacks the immediate area rather than throwing it around like the other 2, but it is wicked fast. This is really useful for all of those enemies that can sneak a hit through your combos with the other 2 disc armors. Because of these differences, you really need to think about what's truly going to be your best move. You may want to keep your distance and use the heavy disc armor, or get right up close and personal with the light one. Each one provides a different playstyle, and you'll probably have a favorite.
Con!
One thing I kept thinking while I was playing this game was, is this really a Wii game? Between the poor voice acting and the jagged models, I couldn't help but think this game looked more like a Dreamcast game. If someone told me that this game started as a Dreamcast title during development and later shifted to the PS2, I would totally believe you. Honestly, they should have recasted everyone for this port. No role sounds professional enough for this time in gaming. Even the aspect ratio takes you back to a bygone era of gaming and media. I don't know why we don't have a widescreen option for this game. Whenever I go to play a Wii game that's still in 4:3, I feel confused. This came out when the PS3 and Xbox 360 were a thing. They defaulted to widescreen display, and in most cases, if you converted it back to 4:3, it'll give you those black bars along the top and bottom. I know it's a weird complaint to have, but I really dislike having black space on my screen. Overall, I feel like the quality of the textures and models could have been made much better for the Wii release. By the time we got this Wii port, Halo had already been on the market for 7 years, the PS3 was 2 years old, Dynasty Warriors 4 had better voice acting and graphics, and it came out 5 years before this port. Now, I know this was at a time when remastering games wasn't as big of a craze, but if you're going to port your game from nearly 6 years ago, you should probably buff it up a bit. You know, make it a little shinier, sound a little less shitty.
Pro!
Now, the graphics and the voice acting may be dated, but the atmosphere that this game has can't go without mention. You feel like you've been taken back to an alternate dimension of Greece that's been overthrown by monsters. Rygar in the original PS2 version definitely feels more like a gladiator. His Wii port outfit does stand out a bit compared to the environments, but you do get used to it pretty quickly. The game isn't afraid to go from dingy browns and grays to bright, vibrant colors. The lack of HD display does hold it back from being as bright as it possibly could be for the time of its release, but you can see what the designers were going for. They used their limitations to their advantage in getting the best feel for the environments as possible. The story also isn't too bad at all for what it is. Rygar, a noble warrior, is being celebrated when Princess Britney Spears over here gets stolen by some demons. Rygar tries to fight them off, but he gets owned. As he's falling down a hole, he finds the legendary disc armor, a weapon bestowed by the gods. He then decides to use the disc armor to visit each of the temples of the gods to get their strength and defeat the bad guy. Not gonna lie, I haven't actually finished this game yet. I'm on the final boss of the PS2 version and I keep getting my ass handed to me, and this boss in the Wii version pretty much made me rage quit because I couldn't beat him for some reason. But I know how the story ends, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I do really like the game's ending. If the story seems like something that would interest you, I'd recommend checking it out, whether you do some digging on the internet or you actually go out and finish the game yourself.
Con!
One new thing that was added to the Wii version was Gladiator mode, essentially an arena brawling mode that pits you against several waves of enemies one after another, with the odd wave being a boss from the story mode. You know, this would actually be a really cool addition to the game if it weren't for one teeny tiny insignificant fact. This fact brutally murdered my chances of succeeding and never allowed me to get anything more than a D ranking. And that is that Rygar's moveset has changed. Now you can only attack using single attacks. There are no combos, no multiple disc armors to help you take down certain enemies, and on top of that, the controls have changed to motion controls. You need to swing the controller downward in order to attack directly in front of you. You can also swing sideways, which will swipe horizontally and attack many enemies. And that's about it. Rygar moves so slowly in this mode, it's like they thought it would be fun to wade through molasses while battling demons from hell. Yeah, this is fun! As I said, I could only get as high as a D no matter how hard I actually tried. This mode was more annoying than inviting. If this game was released without this mode, I would have enjoyed it much better, because I never played Gauntlet mode after getting the footage for the sake of this review. The story mode is the only thing you really need to worry about. Just stay away from Gladiator mode. Overall, I didn't have a terrible time with Rygar on the Wii, but I feel like it could have benefited by some minor tweaks that would have made it feel like an improvement from the PS2 version rather than just a port. First off, the legacy of Rygar is well represented in this game, and even though I played the PS2 title before the arcade one, while playing the Wii port, I was enjoying the fact that I was recognizing a lot of the different enemies and items in the game. The game's mechanics are really satisfying to get a good understanding of the controls of each disc armor and how it stacks up to the various enemies you'll have to face. I had a lot more fun once I got all the disc armors in the game. The atmosphere is super solid. I felt like I was in ancient Greece fighting the demons of Hades, and the story is interesting enough to keep you wondering what will come next. That being said, the atmosphere is diminished by the dull graphics and textures. I feel like the Wii is capable of much more. Look at games like Xenoblade Chronicles, Skyward Sword, and even the Resident Evil port on the system. This console is very able, but Tecmo just put out the same game from the PS2 with the only change being a new mode and Rygar's changed model, which honestly sticks out at first. You do get used to it, but it's such a stark difference from the PS2 model. You'll constantly be fighting with the controls, whether it's the camera, the combat, or the waggle controls in Gauntlet mode. And I didn't mention it previously, but it's weird to not have an intro cinematic like the PS2 version. There is a cinematic thing that plays when you leave the menu long enough, but it's just the trailer, which isn't anything special. And the other thing is that the Wii version is still in 4:3 aspect ratio. Meanwhile, the trailer is in 16:9. This game was released in 2007. 16:9 was pretty much standard at that point for gaming. And why advertise a game in 16:9 if it's not available in that? So with that being said, I give Rygar, The Battle for Argus on Wii, a 5.5 out of 10. I just felt disappointed at every turn. Even if they didn't update the models to have a higher polygon count, they could have retextured them for the sake of this port. Allowing use of a classic or pro controller would have made my life so much easier. The Wii remote and nunchuck controls are clunky and would make me feel like leaving the game at times. I started up the PS2 version just to grab a clip of it, and I felt more at home with those controls. If you're really interested in playing Rygar, I would recommend either the arcade classic or the PS2 version. If the Wii version is all you got, you can still play this one, but you'd be missing out on a lot of the feel the PS2 version provides. Anyways everyone, thanks for watching this video. I hope you're all enjoying Musou so far. I'll be doing some more Legacy reviews, Let's Plays, and challenges all month long, so if you enjoyed this and love Koei Tecmo, you should consider subscribing. Give the video a like and leave a comment down below on your thoughts on the review and Rygar. If you'd like to help the channel even more, consider joining the guild via Patreon like these awesome people. There are a few tiers of rewards like your name at the end of every video, access to guild-only Discord chats, and early uploads for non-Musou scripted videos. Thanks again everyone, and I will see you all down in the comments.